शुक्र खुदा में रज़वी हो।
Allah Almighty, by His divine grace and mercy, has granted insan and blessed man with the treasure of wisdom, intellect is a great gift from Almighty Allah. Allah has created us all with aql. And aql is one of the things that differs us from the animals. Because with this aql, with this intellectual capacity that Allah has given us, we are able to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. We are able to differentiate between what is safe and what is unsafe. We are able to differentiate between what is halal and what is haram. Because it is the intellect that allows you to attain knowledge. But the knowledge indeed is by the grace of Allah. Allah, from the beginning of time, Almighty Allah, I'm being brief, Almighty Allah has allowed mankind to understand the importance of ilm, the importance of knowledge. And this is why when Almighty Allah created Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, and the angels asked about why man was being created, in brief, what do we know? Almighty Allah taught Adam alayhi salam the names of all the things. And whatever he asked, Adam alayhi salam answered. What does it teach? Knowledge. And when the first revelation came to the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what was the first revelation? Iqra. Read. Okay? All throughout history you will find the importance of knowledge was being emphasized. But unfortunately, we have become so lost and so drowned in dunya that we only think about the knowledge of dunya. How fortunate are those parents, Sunni Sahihul Aqidah parents, who made their children huffaz, who made their children ulama. We're not saying don't do anything else. Make them anything else within the legal boundaries of Islam. But don't leave them in a state of jihala when it comes to deen. Because the deen of Allah is primary, everything else is secondary. But what we have done is we have made everything primary and we have put the deen secondary. And Allah, by His grace and His mercy, has bestowed knowledge upon those in the dunya who have become radiant and shining lamps of Islam. You must remember, you cannot truly attain that knowledge by yourself. We have to strive to attain that knowledge. When Allah wills, He will put it in our hearts. A Hafiz tries to memorize the Quran, but because of his sincerity and devotion, Allah puts the Quran in his heart. You understand? So, Allah in every zamana has given the world personalities who have been radiant lamps of knowledge and wisdom. And why I have started this discussion here today is because even in the month of Shawwal, Allah Almighty sent a personality whom people generally take his name so often, but when the time comes to remember him, they forget. That personality who came in this month of Shawwal, according to most narrations, authentic narrations, on the 13th of Shawwal, and who left this world on the 1st of Shawwal. That personality who is known as Sayyiduna Imam Bukhari Radi Allahu Anhu. How many of us remember that this is the month of Imam Bukhari Radi Allahu Anhu? This is the month in which he was born also, and this is the month in which he left also. Everything that you ask for, people ask, you talk to people who don't even know what is the first hadith of Bukhari. You ask them something, but is it in Bukhari? But how many of them remember who is Imam Bukhari? What were his sacrifices for the deen of Allah and his beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam? Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala an is that Mubarak personality that after the Holy Quran, the greatest kitab in the world is the Bukhari. The most exalted kitab in the world is the Bukhari. But always remember, it does not mean that if it is not in Bukhari, it is incorrect. Because there are numerous other compilers of Hadith and Mubarakah and authentic books of Hadith and Mubarakah. But Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu has been given this special distinction. He was so haq go, he spoke always what was haq. He was persecuted, even till the last days before he left this dunya. That is why he journeyed to Samarkand and made parda on the way. Didn't even reach Samarkand. Because of being persecuted, and it was said to him that you are not following the right way. Imam Bukhari. Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu. Who? Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu. This is that great Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu, concerning whom Hazrat Sayyiduna Sulaiman ibn Mujahid radiallahu anhu says that once I attended the mahfil, I went to the mahfil of Hazrat Sayyiduna Imam Muhammad bin Salam. Hazrat Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu said, I went to the mahfil. What was the mahfil? The mahfil of hadith, where the hadith used to be taught, the majlis of hadith, the sessions of hadith at that time. So Hazrat Sayyidina Sulaiman ibn Mujahid radiallahu anhu says that I attended the majlis of hadith of Hazrat Sayyidina Muhammad ibn Salam al-Bayqandi radiallahu anhu. Muhammad ibn Salam Bayqandi radiallahu anhu. I went to his majlis and I wanted to take his blessings. He said, when I went to his majlis, Hazrat Sayyidina Muhammad bin Salam Bayqandi radiallahu anhu, when he saw me, when he saw Sulaiman bin Mujahid radiallahu anhu, he said, oh Sulaiman, I wish you came a little bit earlier. I wish you had come a little bit earlier. If you came a little bit earlier, I would have shown you that little child that has come to learn hadith. I would have shown you that little child that comes here in my majlis of hadith and who at this age has memorized 70,000 hadith. 70,000 hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Sayyidina Ibn Mujahid says that when I heard this and when I left the mahfil, I went out in search of Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu. The little Imam Bukhari at that time, he said, because the person who was being spoken about, the child, was Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala. Think about it for a moment. That child who knew 70,000 hadiths by memory. What was his aql? What was his wisdom? What was his intellectual capacity? How much Allah had given him aql. Yet, there are those who object to the maqam and the status of Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala. That Imam who as a child, he had memorized 70,000 hadiths from the court of the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. You know, there is one riwayat, subhanallah, say subhanallah, get a tree planted in Jannat. There is one riwayat that Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Hashid ibn Ismail radiallahu anhu. Imam Hashid ibn Ismail radiallahu anhu, he says that when he was a young boy, in his youth, he said, Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu was one of our colleagues. He used to be in our company. And we used to go to the mashayikh of Basra. In Iraq, in Basra, we used to go to the mashayikh. What they used to go there for? To learn hadith. He said, in our youth, in my youth, Imam Bukhari was in our company, he was one of our colleagues, and we used to go into the court of the mashayikh in Basra. And he said when we would go there, the hadith would be taught. See, in those days, they didn't have your cell phone to record it. They didn't have any other way to record what they did. As the hadith was being presented, they wrote it as it is. How quick they were in writing, can you think? Because they wrote it with the narrators and the entire chains of transmission. And after that, they would compare, the students would compare what they wrote within one another. So they say that we were young and Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu used to go with us. Subhanallah. He was also very young. And when we used to listen to the hadith from the mashayikh from the great imams of hadith of Basra, we used to write them down. We used to note the hadith down. And he said we watched very carefully. We went to so many majalis. We went to so many gatherings of hadith. We all would listen carefully and we would write down the hadith. And afterwards we would find that Bukhari has not written anything. Subhanallah. We would all write the hadith.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
There was no other way to preserve the hadith for them.
Subhanallah.
How would they remember what the Ustad taught? The Ustad did not teach at speeds also. They recited the hadith properly. They repeated so that people would record the hadith in writing. So every sheikh that we went to, we listened to hadith, we wrote it down. We all took, somebody wrote this, somebody wrote that, and then we would, in the end of the day, we would compare what we had written. Okay? And he said, but we found that Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu, as a youth, as a young man, he would not write anything. He said, we went on like this for 16 days. How many days?
16 days.
We went on like this for 16 days to different mashayikh of Basra, and they used to tell us a hadith of Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we would write the hadith. He says after 16 days had passed, we thought now we have to say something to the young Imam Bukhari, Muhammad bin Ismail radiallahu anhu. We have to say something to him. We have to say something to this colleague of ours. Look at how they taught. Nowadays, if somebody sees that they're doing some studies and one of their friends is doing some other dhamal, they'll leave him in that state. Here Imam Bukhari was just not writing down, but they still wanted to rebuke him about that. They wanted to remind him that, why are you not writing down the hadith? You're going with us. What are you going to do at the end of the day? They worried about these things. Okay? Today our children go to madrasa and come home. We don't even ask them, what did you study? I remember when we were kids, when my father would come home in the evening from work, the first question he would ask, not about school, he'd ask you, what the ustad said. What did you learn in madrasa? And you couldn't say that my ustad gave me a shot today because I didn't know. Because you'd get a second shot at home. Okay? But today it's the other way around. Today it's the other way around because there's no qadr for ilm. There's no value for knowledge and there's no value for those who teach ilm deen. You understand? Nowadays, the afternoon madrasa has become what? Creche. Part-time. Just send the children there so that they till we come home from work. It's not for that. It's for them to brighten their future. It's for them to get the ilm of the deen of Allah and His beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, how many days passed? 16 days. I'm just saying that you're listening to me. 16 days passed. And 16 days they were writing all the hadith, numerous hadith. And they didn't spend 5 minutes. They would spend entire days in the court of the mashayikh. And they would write numerous hadith. Said, after 16 days passed, they decided that now we have to tell him something. So Imam Hashid radiallahu anhu, Hashid ibn Ismail, they were young. So they started to rebuke Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu. And they said to him, you are not writing down the hadith. You are not noting the hadith. 16 days have passed. Itne waqt aapne barbad kar di. You wasted 16 days in the court of the great muhaddithin. You've not taken down any notes at all. You've not done anything whatsoever. When he heard this, Imam Bukhari heard this, he said, all of you come here, sit here. All of you, come and sit here. Bring all what you wrote. So they thought, okay, now Imam Bukhari is going to make us sit, this young man, Muhammad bin Ismail, and he's going to make us now tell what we wrote. Now he's going to write, 16 days work, how long it's going to take? That's what they would have thought. Because he's saying, bring all what you wrote, come. In other words, in their mind, what would have been there? The man who didn't write any one hadith for 16 days in the court of great mashayikh, now when we're reminding him, we're saying, okay, bring all you people's work and come. What would they thought? He would want to copy all the work, or he'd want them to read it and then he'll write it. He said, bring all the work that you compiled. They say, Imam Hashid says, we brought all what we wrote, all our compilations, which equal to about 15,000 hadith. I want you to think in that zamana, in 16 days they heard 15,000 hadith. See how they spend their time. He said all our compilations equal to about 15,000 hadith. He said that as we opened our compilations, Imam Bukhari started reading the first hadith from memory. Until he did not stop, until he read to us 15,000 hadiths from his memory. He did not stop until he read to us 15,000 hadiths from his memory. This is Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala. This is Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala an, that what others were dictating, listening to the teacher while he dictated and wrote, Imam Bukhari put it into his heart. This is that same Imam Bukhari radiallahu an. This is the same Imam Bukhari. Abu Bakr ibn Munir says, Abu Bakr ibn Munir says that this is the same Imam Bukhari, that once while performing namaz he completed. After completing his salah, he called his students and he picked up a portion of his clothing, which was permissible to pick up. And he said to him, just see what is under my kurta, what is under my kameez, after namaz. So his students checked his clothes and they found a hornet, a wasp, a bee, a huge one, under his clothes. And they saw on that area of his body, there were more than 15 bites, stings. The entire area was swollen. They said to him, "Oh Imam Bukhari, why didn't you break your salah at that time? Why didn't you stop at that time when you were being stung so many times by this hornet, by this wasp, by this bee?" Imam Bukhari radiallahu anh says that I only realized after salah that I was stung. That's why I told you to check. While I was in the salah, I was so engrossed in the verses that I read, I didn't know I was stung. I didn't even know. How do we read namaz? Come on, how do we read namaz today? How do we read namaz today? Making takbir-e-tahrima, but we're already in the shopping center. Hota ke nahi? Make takbir, Imam is reading, but your mind is already there. Wife said, bring half a loaf of bread, 2 liter milk. Mind wanders. Okay? But look at them. So absorbed in his salah that 15 to 16 times a hornet has stung him. He's not aware till he finishes his namaz. Why? He's so absorbed in the Holy Quran. He's so absorbed in the Holy Quran. This is Imam Bukhari Radi Allahu Anhu. And this is that Imam Bukhari. We can go on talking about him. I'm going to stop now. That Allah had blessed him with such acceptance, such maqbuliyat, not only in this world physically, but in the grand court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had been blessed with grand acceptance, Imam Bukhari. In the court of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spent his entire life in the search of a hadith mubarakah and spreading the knowledge of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, it is said about him, Warraq says, very great scholar of hadith in that zamana, Warraq says, narrator of hadith, he says that one night I had a dream. One night I had a dream. He said, in the dream, I saw the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what I saw, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was walking. And behind him directly, I saw Imam Bukhari walking. I saw Imam Bukhari walking. And I saw wherever the Nabi would place his Mubarak foot, there Imam Bukhari placed his foot. There Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu placed his foot. And this was a sign of this dream of Warraq, that this is how firm Imam Bukhari was in following the way of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the great scholar of Arbazi says, what does he say? The great scholar of Hadith, he says, I saw myself at some place in a dream once. I saw myself that I was in a dream. I saw myself at a place. And he said, in that place where I was in my dream, I saw the beloved Rasul. I saw the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked me, where are you going? Imam Farbazi says, I dreamt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw me walking somewhere. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, where are you going? He said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm going to see Muhammad bin Ismail. Oh, Imam Bukhari. I'm going to see Muhammad bin Ismail. He said, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go. Go and also convey my salam to him. This is Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu we are discussing. So this great personality, Hazrat Sayyiduna Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala anhu, has done a great service to the Muslim Ummah. He's to him today that we have this vast treasure of knowledge. great A'immah of Hadith who we remember of the students of the students of the students of the students of Imam Bukhari. Radi Allahu Anhu. But why is it that we do not remember these great personalities? Why is it that we don't pay tribute to them when we should? Remember, if you have not in this month made a Fatiha in your home on the name of Imam Bukhari, do so. Do so. Allah's mercy will descend upon you in an abundance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with remaining firm on Mazhab Muhazzab, Mazhab Ahl Sunnat, Maslaki ala Hazrat. Allah keep us